Hello, grandson. This is your grandfather, and I'm going to tell you an old story that I used to tell to your daddy many, many years ago. The name of it is Wicked John and the Devil. Once upon a time, there was this old man, mean as a corn cob. Man, he was mean and wicked and evil. But one thing about Wicked John, he always treated a stranger right. If a stranger came to visit, he would make sure that he was taken care of and well fed. That's about the best thing you could say about old Wicked John. Well, one day, Wicked John was a blacksmith, and he was working as a blacksmith, and he was had a blacksmith shop on his own property near his house. And he was banging away at this metal, making horseshoes for the horses to wear. And lo and behold, he was banging away, and he noticed this old man coming up the road. He was all bent over with the rheumatism, arthritis, and he was walking with two sticks, as slow as could be, and he looked like he was 115 years old. And Wicked John, he just kept pounding away at his horseshoes. And then when the old man came closer by, he said, "Old man, why don't you sit on my front porch and sit a spell?" And the old man said, "Why, thank you kindly. I think I'll do that." And the old man sat on the porch, and Wicked John pounded away at the horseshoes for a while. And then he said, "Old man, why don't you let me fix you some lunch? And I've got some fried chicken and some green beans and some cornbread and some good old cold sweet milk." And so Wicked John brought out all this food for the old man. The old man slowly ate all of this food, and Wicked John was pounding away at his horseshoes. Well, after a while, Wicked John looked up, and he saw this old man straighten up. He threw these old walking sticks to the side. He stood up, and he had a long white beard and long white hair. And he had a golden key in his hand. And Wicked John said, "Who in the world are you?" And the stranger said, "Well, my name is St. Peter. Yes, I am St. Peter, right from heaven. And every year I come to earth and I walk back and forth, and I just see if there's anybody around who will treat a stranger right. And I have come to your house, and you have treated me right, like a person ought to treat a stranger. And when I find a man like you, I am empowered to give them 3 wishes. So you tell me, what 3 wishes would you like to have?" And Wicked John, he didn't take him that seriously, so he didn't think too much about it. But he said, 3 wishes. "Well, I tell you, I've got this rocking chair on my porch, and I love to sit in that rocking chair at the end of the day, and I like to rock back and forth and back and forth. And wouldn't you know it, before I get my work done, one of those boys down the street, they come over to my house, they sit on my front porch, they start telling stories and talking to each other, and one of them will sit in my rocking chair and just rock back and forth, back and forth. It makes me so dad blasted mad. I wish that anyone who sits in my rocking chair without my permission would find themselves stuck in that chair, and they'd rock back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth until I let them go." And St. Peter said, "Okay, that sounds like a strange wish, but your wish, you got it." Well, grandson, that was the first wish. He still had two more wishes. And so Wicked John stroked his beard and said, well, let me see. For the next wish, I've got this sledgehammer. You see it over there next to the barn? Every day I have to work trying to pound that rock out of my driveway, chopping that rock into little pieces of pebbles so I can carry it away. And wouldn't you know, every time I get to the point where I want to beat that rock with that sledgehammer, some boys from the neighborhood, come and they pick up that sledgehammer and they start pounding at trees and pounding at this and pounding at that, just playing with that thing. And I wish that the next person who picks up that sledgehammer would be stuck to that sledgehammer. And they'd have to pound and pound and pound with that sledgehammer, and they wouldn't be able to let go of it until I said that they could let go of that sledgehammer. And St. Peter looked at him and said, okay, I'll give you that wish too. St. Peter was a little bit disappointed because he thought Wicked John was wasting his 3 wishes. You get one more wish. What's it going to be? Wicked John thought about it, stroked his beard, and said, well, for my 3rd wish, you see that bush over there? I call it my fire bush. It puts out these beautiful red blossoms and flowers, and it's got stickers on it, and I just love the looks of it. But wouldn't you know, those boys from down the road, they'll come running up the road and they'll trample all over that fire bush, and they mess it up so the flowers fall off and the twigs fall off. And I wish the next person who touches that bush would get stuck in that bush and wouldn't be able to get out until I said they could get out. Well, St. Peter said, well, that's it there. Those are your 3 wishes. So thank you for the lunch and the milk, and I'll be on my way. And all of a sudden, the stranger disappeared. Well, about a week later, Wicked John had another visitor, and this visitor wasn't from heaven. This visitor came from hell, where the devil lives. And this devil showed up, and he smelled of old smoke and fire and brimstone, and he had an evil look on his face. He had these horns sticking out of his head. And Wicked John was working at his blacksmith shop, pounding away at horseshoes, one after another. And he looked over at this stranger and said, howdy, who are you? And the stranger said, I'm the devil. I've come to take your soul. I'm going to take you with me down to the fiery depths. Wicked John said, well, I guess I deserve that. They don't call me Wicked John for nothing. But before I go with you, I've got someone depending on this horseshoe. Let me finish this horseshoe, and I'll be with you, and I'll go without any trouble at all. Why don't you have a seat? Find a place to sit down and relax. Well, Wicked John didn't mention his rocking chair, didn't give him permission to sit in the rocking chair. But the devil saw that rocking chair, and he thought, well, that's the best place to sit. So he sat down in that rocking chair, and wouldn't you know it, he started rocking back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And he was out of control. He couldn't stop. And the devil said, Wicked John, stop this thing. Let me out of this chair. It's driving me crazy. And Wicked John said, okay, you can get out of the chair. And all of a sudden, the rocking chair stopped rocking, and the devil got up. He was a little dizzy. And Wicked John was still working on horseshoes. Not the one he was working on. He finished that. He was working on his 2nd horseshoe. And the devil said, wait a minute, Wicked John, we had a deal. You make 1 horseshoe, and then you were going to come with me. Who said you could start that 2nd horseshoe? And Wicked John said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I forgot all about that. But if you'll hand me that hammer over there, I might be able to finish this horseshoe faster. Well, He didn't reach for the hammer that Wicked John was pointing at. He saw that sledgehammer and thought, that's a mighty big sledgehammer. He'll be able to finish that horseshoe in no time. So he grabbed that other sledgehammer, the big one, and all of a sudden he started pounding away, pounding away, pounding away, pounding away, and he couldn't let go of this thing. And he said, Wicked John, help me. Let me go from this sledgehammer. It's wearing me out. And Wicked John said, okay. And all of a sudden the devil stopped hitting and pounding things with that sledgehammer. He was able to let go of it. And the devil was exhausted. He started to sit down in the rocking chair, and he thought he'd better not sit in the rocking chair. So he sat on the front porch, just exhausted. And he noticed that Wicked John was no longer working on that second horseshoe. He was working on the third horseshoe. And he said, Wicked John, you hold up a minute. I didn't tell you you could start working on another horseshoe. We had a deal that if you finish up that second horseshoe, you'd come along with me without any trouble at all. And Wicked John said, you know, you're absolutely right. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish this third horseshoe, and then I'm going to start a fourth horseshoe. Because a horse has 4 feet, and I've got a customer who needs 4 horseshoes for his horse. And the devil said, no, I'm not going to put up with this. I am fed up with you, Wicked John. I'm going to beat your rear end. And he turned and saw that fire bush with all those long branches. And he was going to grab one of those fire bush branches and cut it off and use it as a switch to whip and beat Wicked John. Well, he grabbed the fire bush, and before he could cut it off, the fire bush pulled him in. He got stuck in all those stickers, and he said, Wicked John, tell this fire bush to let me go. And Wicked John said, no, not going to do it. And he said, please, Wicked John, tell this bush to let me go. And Wicked John said, no, not going to do it. And the devil said, I promise, if you let this fire bush go, I won't bother you anymore at all. And so Wicked John told the fire bush to let him go. It let go of the devil, and the devil said, Wicked John, you're the meanest person I've ever met on this earth. I tell you what, I'm going to leave you alone, and I'm going to tell you that when you die, you're not welcome to hell. You go start a hell of your own and be your own devil. And as far as I know, that's exactly what happened to old Wicked John.